Welcome to this episode of The Insider at Home, the show that brings you the best in show jumping. My next guest is the first female guest on this Insider at Home. She is a three-time Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix winner, and she's turning into an icon of our sport, but she's also an icon outside of our sport. As much as you can be influenced by her way of riding and her success in the show jumping ring, you can also be influenced by how she shares her experiences and how she is a very open personality. I don't need to say you much more. Let's meet her straight away. Dani G, Waldman, welcome at our show. Great to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks so much for having me. Real honor to be on the show. But I'm doing all right so far. Hanging in there.
Safe and sound?
Yeah, everybody's good. So knock on wood.
That is good. That's good to hear. Dani, it's been exactly 1 year since Shanghai 2019, where you won the Grand Prix. You'll comment to your Grand Prix round in our In the Saddle feature. We'll bring that to our guests and viewers and fans as well. But I want to talk to you about the day after. Not about a hangover, not about the party, but the day after, you had a fantastic session with a lot of school children in Shanghai. You sat down with them, and I think every rider would be talking about their success, how to become a professional show jumping rider, and you did none of that. You spoke with them, and I remember it really well. It was about do what feels good, follow your dreams, follow your goal, develop your personality. Why speak to 8-year-old children or 10-year-old children so personal, and while you had the podium there to be bragging about yourself?
For kids out there, it's so much more important that they can actually develop their own personalities and the things that matter to them. And I think if you can inspire kids to think about that and not what other people want them to do, but what they want to do and who they are, to me, that's so much more important, because in the end, when I was able to sort of develop my own personality and my own goals, that's what made me successful in the sport. So if kids can sort of develop what they're passionate about, then they will find success in whatever it is that they want to do. So for me, that's so much more important to impart that type of understanding and mentality to kids than about a couple of my wins and successes that I've had.
Who inspired you as a kid when you were young?
Honestly, my father is like a huge idol of mine. That sounds so silly to say, but really I idolized him from day one. He was a professional athlete. He was #1 in the world in squash. And he knew what it took, and he knows what it takes to get to the top of the sport, of any sport. And so for me, it was always, firing back and forth between me and him as to what do I do in order to improve myself and to be the best. And so I think for me, he inspired me to follow my own path. And sure, there were lots of other people that inspired small things, but from the sport perspective, he's the one who, made me believe I could get to the top.
He gave you that competitive edge.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe genetically too.
Do you consider yourself as a positive person?
Yeah, totally. I think if I have a down day, it's the rarity. Normally I wake up happy every day. And I mean, my husband is always joking, like, I don't understand. Why are you always in a good mood? And not to say that I'm not moody. For sure I'm moody, and for sure I'm not always pleasant. But in general, I'm a happy person. I try to find joy in things. I try to see the glass half full, not half empty.
You're very honest about it. You're positive 99% of the time, but at 1% you also share it. Is that you could keep it to yourself, but you share it? Is that very specific? Is that well overthought that you share also those difficult moments?
I mean, I think in general, I'm a very candid person. Like, to me, my whole sort of way that I live my life is just like, own your choices. And if I have a bad day and I screw up in the ring, like, I'm not just going to hide behind the fact of a pretty round or something, a clear round. I think that sharing those hardships are what everybody has them. And I think it's crazy when I follow people or I hear from other people and they're like, no, you can't tell anyone that you had a fault or that you screwed up and you chipped or something. Like, yeah, but we all do that. And I think it's crazy when everything looks so perfect, because nothing is perfect out there. We all have these days. And so for me, it's so important, as positive as I am as a person, it's so important that I actually express those bad days, because yeah, sometimes that makes me feel less alone. Everyone needs that sort of confidence from other people a little bit. You need to know that you're not alone out there. And when I share a bad day and then I get a comment back from somebody that says, oh my God, I had the same thing, I think, oh good, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy, or I'm not terrible. I'm not a horrible rider. You know, like it actually gives confidence. And I like that feedback that I get from my fans and from people out there. So I like to share the good and the bad, because that's the whole picture.
Yeah. It makes you stand out, because not many professional riders at the level that you act on do that. Share those difficult moments. Do you get feedback from your colleagues, rivals, friends at that top level about, hey, why you do it? And is there anybody that has spoken to you that says, I want to share those bad moments, but I'm afraid to do so, even at our level? Does it happen?
Yeah, for sure. I can think a very specific moment. Another female rider, I had shared something about people were really angry and not happy with some of the clothing choices I made, which of course were personal and were not meant to be offensive to anyone else. And I sort of went on social media talking about it. And I had a colleague who is also a very, very top level female rider come up to me and actually bear hugged me from behind and was like, thank you for saying something, because she was like, I experienced this and I felt this and I never felt like I could say it out loud. And she's like, and now I feel like I can. So, that response made me think I was doing the right, then you have to do these things. These things are important. And if people are out there and it's going to make them feel better about themselves, then I feel an obligation to share those things about myself, even if they're embarrassing, even if they make me, question things about myself. Community brings a sense of confidence. And I think that that's how I like to view social media. So yeah, people come and say negative and positive, but in the overall is that community is actually helpful.
Yeah. Could you be the perfect role model by being imperfect? You specifically?
I don't know. I am imperfect, so I think we're all imperfect. I don't know if I'll be the perfect role model for anybody, but at least I feel like what I put out there is honest. And for me, that's the most important thing, is that don't hide behind what you think other people are going to say to you. Just own it and own that identity of yourself and own those choices and the mistakes you make, because we're all human and that's life.
The hashtag own your identity, it's quite a big thing for you, isn't it? And I understand it. Why did you start with that hashtag own your identity? Where did it come from? What's the origin of it?
No, I don't actually think that I came up with it. Someone else came up with it, and I saw it. They hashtag, or they referenced me and then hashtag that, and it made me think that you know what? That's actually so much of what I'm about. My own identity has evolved so much over the years to a point where now I'm so confident in myself and who I am, as a person, and the clothing choices I make, and it reflects in my riding and all of that. So that hashtag sort of came about, and it just is representative of everyone sort of figuring out who they are and then sticking to it and believing in themselves and, own it. If I look terrible in an outfit, I'll be the first one to say it. I'm never going to be the one to be like, oh man, that was awesome. I'm going to be like, no, I look terrible. Why the hell did I wear that? But I rather own it and own that identity that I chose to wear it. And I was brave enough to go out and wear it and come back and say, you know what, I think it looked terrible. That was a stupid choice. I'm not going to do that again. But at least I was brave enough to own it and own that I made a mistake and things like that. So that's where I think it comes from.
We're in a very conservative sport in a way. In terms of attire and dress and rules.
Not if I have anything to do with it.
Sorry? I know. And that's what we're getting at. Are you trying to? Are you the front runner of change? Are you trying to change something in our sport?
Hard question. Yes. I don't know if I initially set out to change the sport, but I definitely feel like, I love our sport. I think it's such an incredible sport with the horses and the athletes and everybody involved, that I wish that more people knew about it. And I wish that more people watched it and appreciated it. So for me, if I can be a little part of that change and to say like, I'm going to make it more accessible to people, I'm going to make the awareness bigger by, you know, being a role model for somebody to look at in the sport and say, okay, like, wow, this sport isn't so closed off. This sport isn't so traditional and old fashioned. You can actually be an individual and be in this sport. Maybe that will attract new spectators, new young riders, new investors. I mean, everything for the sport. I think it's better. So for me, I would love to be a part of that. I don't know if I set out to be, but I would love to be a part of that change.
Do you think you've made a change already? Do you see? I'm not going to say the next Dani G. Waldman, absolutely not. But do you see that you've in our sport you've influenced people?
I've certainly gotten a lot of feedback from people that they feel better about themselves because of some of the things that I've said and put out there. I've definitely seen a trend towards new riding attire, and the apparel has really changed. I don't know if I'm the cause of that, but I certainly have seen a shift towards a sportier, you know, more figure flattering, more functional type of clothing. And if I had anything to do with that, I mean, amazing. If I didn't, I'm glad that I'm sort of part of this trend at least.
It is a tough sport that we're in. Mentally, it's very tough because if you're lucky, 2% of the time you're winning. But it also means that 98% of the time you're losing. Geir Gulliksen mentioned it in an earlier episode of The Insider at Home. Is there, we spoke a bit about it with Peter Fredrickson as well. Do you do anything to strengthen yourself mentally for the toughness of the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, naturally, one of my stronger points, I think, even more than my talent and skill, is my mental ability to sort of put things to the side and just focus on the job at hand. So I think I tend to be better at that. But I mean, one of the funniest and biggest things that I do is actually sleep at horse shows, and I nap like crazy. And people like, there's photos of me, like, I think there's WhatsApp groups about me of like just Dani sleeping because for me, like mentally, I clear my mind, and it is a tough sport, especially because we're at the shows all day long, and you go and you warm the horse up in the morning, and then you wait hours and hours and hours for those, 90 seconds in the ring to execute, your job. So that requires a lot of mental sort of strength. And for me, I love to be able to just take a nap, even if it's right before the course walk, like any amount of tension. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to shut down. I'm going to shut off and then wake up and it's go time. So for me, like I try and do that. And also like, I also need a little bit of amping up. So like I sort of rest to get my head into place. And then, I try to pump myself up right before I go in the ring. And sometimes that means I need to have a heated discussion with somebody or something, but I got to fire myself up. But mentally, I mean, it's a tough game. So you got to figure out what works for you.
What we see on the Longines Global Champions Tour and on the Global Champions League, let's say the 2019 and 18 season, we always saw Helena Stormans by your side. Do you, now I think you're training with Meredith, Markus Beerbaum and Markus Beerbaum. How important are those trainers for you?
Yeah, like I said before, my father was always my biggest idol, and he always pushed me to, look, you're the one who has to get it done in the ring, and there's no one else that can do it for you. But I love to have a little bit of guidance on the ground. And at home, my husband, Alan Waldman, I mean, he helps me a ton on the ground at home, but it's nice when you go to a big event like any of the global tours. These are important events. There's not that many throughout the year, and you want each one to count. And to go there and have somebody on the ground that's really on your side to discuss the course, to help and assist in your warm up, to make a plan, to make sure you're going to be able to execute your plan. Those small things I think are really nice to have someone on the ground. And Helena, changed the trajectory of my career. And now Meredith and Markus, they have so much experience from the championship level. And Meredith was the first #1 woman in the world. Those are kind of things that I aspire to. So it's great to be able to get feedback from people who now I consider even colleagues more so than a, student trainer. situation. It's really like an equal playing field, and we discuss things and we talk about what's the best move, not just like, do this and heels down. It's very much this partnership that I really love when I go to the big events.
You've done the Q&A, our 20 questions earlier with Edwina Tops-Alexander. You're on the team with her as well on Saint-Tropez Pirates, the Global League. She's a very experienced rider, as are you. She's been through all the championships. How is that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's great to be able to, Edwina also has been an idol of mine forever. I mean, she's been everywhere and jumped every major championship and won so many globals that, it's great to have her sort of by your side, also to be as a colleague and talk through things and make a plan. But then as now my teammate, you take a vested interest in her success, not even just on the league competitions, but in all the competitions. Now she's my teammate. I want her to do well all the time. And then I follow her other horses coming up and ones that could soon be on the team. You get a whole different sort of side of your former competitors to now being your teammates. So it's a great way to have, I think it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. You are very creative. You're big into fashion. You've spoken about your interest and love for architecture. You're also somebody who wants to bring in new things you want to develop. I think you're a creator. At least the social media post about making sandwiches convinced me that you're a creator. No doubt about that. You are a creator. The creation of Global Champions League, is it for you also? Is it for you a positive development? That something new, something exciting, something that develops, that takes it out of the ordinary, a new concept?
Yeah, totally. I'm the first one. So many people are afraid of change. Even there's many equestrians that are afraid of change to rules and things like this. I am the first one to say change is good. We need change for development. And I think the league and what Jan Tops built from the beginning, it was the idea of making it a more global sport. And I think the league competitions have now putting riders who normally would never be together on a team together, and you get new owners and you get this new camaraderie and this new sort of event essentially. And it changes the whole game, and the prize money is huge, and the incentives are amazing. So I think change is great. And I think things like the Global Champions League and the whole tour itself push the sport forward. And we need that. Like I said, I'm a proponent of pushing the sport forward into, as far as we can push it. And I think things like the league do that.
I read through your biography. You were quite a successful junior young rider. Then you had a break. You went to university, got a degree, and then you came back. I think your comeback is for the last 10 years, approximately.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
We can celebrate it, actually, a 10-year comeback, no?
Yeah.
We can celebrate. You've been on the tour for the last 3-4 years, very regularly, very intense. You've seen how it all grew. Now in this Global Champions League, there's an under 25 aspect for those younger riders. Also, when looking through your biography, you're still very young yourself. Would it have helped you as a younger rider to fight your way through the ranks with that under 25 concept?
Yeah, unbelievable. I wish it had existed when I was younger. I think that whole concept of giving young riders who wouldn't have a chance to ride, at all the 5 stars against the top riders in the world. That's such valuable experience that you can't get without actually just doing it. And without something like having the U25 rider on the team, those riders would have no chance to be on the tour. So, I wish I had had that opportunity when I was younger. And I think it's an unbelievable program to be have as part of this tour, because that's where obviously the future of the sport comes from, the younger ranks. So they need to get that experience to be able to be ready for championships and when they're called on for when it matters. There's real pressure on the tour, and they get to experience that at a much younger age than I did.
We spoke about the change, about the development, about creating. What would you like to change in our sports? What are the boundaries that you want to break?
Perception. I think perception of the sport is that it's a hobby. and that, it doesn't require work and we're just sitting up there and we're not the athletes and the horses are the athletes, or the horses are doing all the work. And I think that's not true. I know that's not true. I mean, we all in the sport know that the humans are just as much the athletes as the horses. And I wish that we could change that perception, that this is a real sport. It's taken seriously. And, the amount of effort and sacrifice that goes into success is no different than any other top major sport.
Your choice of attire, the clothes, the riding clothes that you wear, it's not only a fashion statement, it's also functional. You make those choices based on how they function and how they work and how they breathe and how they stretch and move and allow you to move. It's just not because it's a fancy color.
No, I do it 100%. I think first and foremost is the function. I find that there isn't enough riding apparel out there at the moment that offers that sort of flexibility, like you said. And, I want the comfort. I don't understand. I understand back in the day when it was a military related sport and you needed a belt buckle to make a tourniquet if something happened out in the woods. But nowadays, this is a sport. We need to wear athletic gear. And for me, I don't want to wear a belt. I don't want hardware on my pants. I don't want anything obstructing my movement. So for me, the choice to wear athletic inspired clothing is because of function. And in the end, okay, I love how it looks and it's so much more comfortable, but it really is because it aids in my ability to do my job.
Interesting. Dani, we've spoken about own your identity, about developing personality, about the ups and downs of the sport. This is the part where we come to the tips and tricks. We've had Michael van der Vleuten and his father Eric on the show. We've had Gerd Gulliksen, we've had Peter Fredriksson, we've had the Philippaert brothers, and they've all brought us their own show jumping exercise, their favorite show jumping exercises at home. But I've asked you, specifically you, because I think many people can take something away from you and get inspired by you, to bring us something, an exercise, but not show jumping, something that you always do to become a better athlete other than purely show jumping. What have you got for me and for us? Two major things, actually. One I learned from Susie Hutchison, who's a famous rider in the US. She always taught me that when you are on the horse warming up, before you go in the ring, in the competition ring, you've sort of done your warm up, maybe you're waiting for your last vertical, and you go over your course 3 times in your head. And you literally start to finish and you think about how you're going to do your beginning, which for me is always, 3 transitions: go forward, slow down, go forward, slow down, go forward, slow down, and then go to the first jump. So it's those 3 transitions, going over the course 3 times in your head, just to make sure it's really ingrained in there. And then the other thing is taking 3 very deep breaths. And I learned it in yoga. It's a breathing technique that they use in yoga, where it's a 4-second count of inhale and a 4-second count of exhale. And I do that 3 times when I'm doing sort of my final go through of going over the course these 3 times, and I'm taking these 3 deep breaths. And for me, that gets me in the mindset. And those small exercises change everything from, okay, I was in the warm up, I have my sort of plan, and now I have to go execute it. And it really takes me from the preparation to the actual execution. So I think those are my tips for getting in the mental game. The visualization, just to understand, how deep do you take the detail? How far do you go?
Yeah, I mean, I think about sort of, again, like the beginning. So it's, all right, how am I going to, where's my like approach to the first jump going to be? Where am I going to do these 3 transitions? And then it's, okay, count the numbers. Do I lengthen? Do I shorten? It's very much, even if I have a chance in the warm up, as I'm thinking about it these 3 times, I walk the course. And if I have to lengthen down a line, I encourage the horse to move forward at the walk, to lengthen at the walk. And then I have to make a left turn, and then I have to make a right turn, or I think, oh, I got to sit up with my shoulders. So it's very detailed about the movements that I'm doing and the aids that I'm telling the horse. So I really want to think about, okay, what are the important steps? Like, do I think, all right, after this jump, shorten your reins, pull it together, re-get the balance, look at the next jump. It's very detailed in the things that I can control. It's a horse. There's a lot of things you can't control. But in my head, those things that I want to go over are the things that I can control. And I try and pick spots around the course to mentally say, okay, here I'm going to shorten my reins, here I'm going to sit up, here I'm going to make sure they're out in front of me, you know, here I need to make sure that I recover quickly because I got to get that shortening done in the line, you know, those kind of things. So I go into as much detail as I can.
That sounds, or nearly sounds, the way a bobslayer or even a Formula One driver prepares for their round on course, where they shut off, close their eyes, and envision every turn and every gear and shifting. And it's literally, it's just the same, going through all those motions, all those steps.
Yeah, I think it's the same concept. You know, you want to be able to execute a plan. And for me, I'm not the best at executing my plan. I'm really one of those like fly by the seat of your pants kind of riders. Like I make quick decisions that aren't always the right decisions in the ring. You know, I fight to leave the jumps up and go as fast as I can. But with me, sometimes I need to be able to visualize that execution to try and get it at least 90%, or because sure, maybe you don't always get it 100% to execute it the way you want. But if you can get as close as you can, the chances are, as long as your plan is good, then you're going to have a shot to actually succeed.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that. I think a lot of our fans and viewers can take that as a useful tool when they go into the ring, or even when they get stressed or nervous on how to prepare. We're nearly at the end of this episode of The Insider at Home, but I have to ask the question. We have missed her in Prague. How is Lizziemary?
Lizzy is good. We missed her. Trust me. You guys missed her. I really missed her. Although Casper did step up, so I got to give him that. But no, she's doing really well. She had an ovary removed. She had a crazy tumor in her ovary. And so she couldn't go to Prague. But she had it removed. She's healed. Everything is good. We actually just took her in for an embryo. So the system is back up and running and she's fertile. Great. My husband is really happy about that, but she's doing well. So I hope we'll see her one day back in the sport, whatever that may be. Okay, now you also have to please the breeder in me. Which stallion did you choose? Emerald. We did Emerald. That could be a chestnut. We're going to change it up. I think we're going to try and get a few more embryos in this time because we have the time. So we're going to change it up, but we started with Emerald. We thought that was a good start. Super. There's a fair chance that you will have a chestnut foal. Most likely. All right. Dani G. Waldman, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with us, for sharing us your insights and all that information. It was very, very valuable. So thank you very much. And I really hope to see you soon back out on the tour. Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me. This is great. And to you at home, once again, thank you very much for watching. In behalf of all of us here at Global Champions, it was a pleasure to have you with us once again. And keep the website and our social media. Keep a good look at what is coming at you. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.